Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another NerdTube Final Fantasy Top 10. I'm Cousin Cheeto. I am joined by my party member in arms, Major Rage. How you doing?
Doing great. Proud to be here as always. Excited to break down our channel's top 10 Final Fantasy summons.
That's right. We are here to break down the top 10 final. This is information compiled from a lot of our Final Fantasy contributors on this channel. The data has been compiled, and this is the definitive Final Fantasy top 10 summons. So, without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. Number 10 is going to be a three-way tie, and I'm not really doing ties, but a three-way tie between, and it's also going to be basically an honorable mentions, between Ashura, Anima, and Gilgamesh. So those three there, I
Okay.
mean, those pretty solid choices. But yeah, so I figured it's a three-way tie for number 10. Might as well make it an honorable mentions as well. So um anything you would like to talk about with any of these three?
Um, Ashura is a great summon because you have to do an incredibly difficult boss fight to obtain it. Uh, if you don't do the gimmick of reflect and wall to protect yourself, she's going to wipe the floor with you no matter, what your level is. It's one of the things I love about 4 is, mechanics in the boss fights, and you had to fight smart in that one. Um, Gilgamesh, great honorable mention one. Visually pleasing for sure, like most of the summons in 8.
Mhm.
Like, they put a lot of time into those cinematics, and you put a lot of time into watching them as the player.
Right. I just really quick. I sure as Final Fantasy 4 and 5 are my two weakest ones. I'm not gonna lie. I've never beat them. I've watched them. I do plan on playing them on my gaming channel here in the near future, but just got to find the time. So sure is kind of one that I'm not too. Anima is probably one of the most visually striking summons you can ever get in any of the Final Fantasies. I feel like, and I mean, the what is it? The Devastator like attack that where you go down below Anima and it turns out to be this weird thing underneath with the arms and doing like the Dragon
It's
Ball punches. It's just like whoa, ah,
it it makes you really it's makes it worth all the effort you go to get the summon.
mm-hmm,
How great the visual is, and just how devastating the attack is in general. Because
yep,
I like to think that most of our contributors thought about not just the visuals or the themes, but also the damage that
mm-hmm,
these powerhouse moves do.
yeah. And then Gilgamesh, I know that Gilgamesh is in 5 as a character, like as a antagonist, sort of, um, we're talking about summons, so I really like the story behind. Final Fantasy 8 had some little gems in it. It's there are definitely some diamonds in the rough because the whole game's rough. Let's be real, but I really did like some things, and this is gem. This is one of those things where it's like you take Odin in against Cypher, and you're like, okay, like hey, Odin's coming in during a boss fight, sweet, and then Cypher just owns him and kills him, and then he comes back as Gilgamesh. And it's just it's one of those rare points in Final Fantasies up to that point where you get story progression from a summon. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's small story progression, but it's still like something happens. The summon goes through a change and it goes from Odin to Gilgamesh, and it's just like I don't know. I really that is, as I said, there's very few things that I like about 8, but the summons in that game are some of them, most of them are the things I like.
I must point out, if we're going to talk about there being plot points with a summon, 6 had that going on too, with the Odin and Raiden
I
acquisition. If you to
Yeah,
solve the puzzle, you kind of need to read the books that are scattered around the dungeon and get kind of the plot bits that are sewed in there.
yeah, you're right. yeah, you are right about that with Odin. So maybe Odin's just always been a story based summon. Who knows? Chocomog from Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, okay.
I was like, when I compiled the data and when the data came out, this one just etched over Gilgamesh, Anima, and Asura. So it just by a hair, after all the data was compiled. So I'm like, okay, the first summon you technically get in Final Fantasy VII, and I mean it's a goofy one, but it's based on two staples of the franchise, Moogles and Chocobos. So I mean, you
Hmm.
can't really go wrong there. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I'm surprised it's on this list, but I'm not like mad that it's on this list. I don't feel like it's wasting a spot. I don't know. What do you think, Mage?
Uh, I wouldn't say it's wasting a spot. It's a cool summon. And I mean, you get two different attacks out of it. It can summon the
Mhm.
chocobo with the Moogle riding it, or you can get the fat chocobo
Chocobo.
and just, sits on everybody. And that's just that they're both amusing animations. They're short in the scheme of PlayStation era summon animations, just get it over with. Uh, Decent damage per MP consumption early game in 7. So good utility summon early game in 7 for sure.
Yep.
Uh,
Mage coming in with all those stats, baby.
yeah, you know how I do.
Yep. Okay, number 8 is going to be another staple in the franchise and is going to be a major, major role in the upcoming Final Fantasy 16. We have Efreet. Um, Go ahead, Mage. You go ahead and start with this one. We'll bounce back
Uh,
and forth.
Staple summon found throughout the series. One of your three basic elements. What's not to love? Hellfire always looks great, always does great damage. Uh, Guardian Force wise, good junctionable abilities there. Uh, Decent level up bonuses in 6. So as far as summons being equipables, good on both fronts, I would say.
I
Uh,
agree. I really have to say though that I really like Ifrit in the remake. I wasn't very
oh
fond of
yeah.
in the original 7. I was not super fond of Ifrit's look. I really like his look in 10 and in the remake. 9, I believe, I don't even remember. Ifrit's never been one of my favorites imagery wise, but I do have to admit in the remake and in 10, like where he gets more of that wolf look to him, where doesn't
Hmm.
he have the big snout? And
Yeah.
even in 8, I think doesn't he he looks a bit menacing in 8
He,
too.
he 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 definitely looks bestial in 8 and now in the 7 remake. They make that sickly green skin color work,
Hmm.
and the orange and red flame type tinges to the skin just kind of pop and work.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah. So I mean, as I said, I first get and especially coming into Final Fantasy 16. I mean, it looks like the main character is going to be utilizing Ifrit. I mean, at least in the trailers, he's been utilizing Ifrit the most. He calls on Ifrit. It seems like it's his main summon or whatever, or his nation summon. I don't know. We don't know how it's going to play out just yet. So we'll see how well this video ages. But still, I think that's going to be still that I think it's going to be a very interesting aspect of that game as well as moving forward for the franchise. Number 7, we have a Final Fantasy 8 exclusive, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Diablos. Um, from I don't think he's
I
in any other
I
game.
don't believe he is either, and I like it. I like it a lot. Uh, Great visuals, like just that dark aesthetic, having a summon that does the gravity move. I mean, brilliant.
And the way you get it is, I mean, it's kind of a
Is that
beginner's trap. It's like, they give you that lamp in the beginning and you're like, "What's this?" Rub the lamp. Okay. Then you go into this fight. And normally 9 times out of 10. Now I will toot my own horn here. I did beat Diablos my first time around. I don't know how I did it. I don't remember how I did it, but I know I beat him the first time around and everybody was shocked that I beat him. That first time, like right after you get the black lamp.
that's
Probably lucked it. I
uh,
definitely probably lucked
wait,
it.
that fight's supposed to be hard?
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's not. I don't know.
No, when you're at NerdTube level Final Fantasy playing, that's not a hard encounter.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess I just naturally knew way back when I first got Final Fantasy VIII that I was going to be nerd tube level encounter.
You just gotta heal through it. You're gonna get taken to a quarter HP, so you just gotta big heal through it.
Yeah, right. But I do love the aesthetic of it. I do love the look of it. It was I do remember a lot of people saying that that's like a beginner's trap that you can't, that like it's really hard to beat that when you first get that lamp. Because he does do physical attacks. So even if he drops everybody to quarter health, he still can knock you guys out. But you're right.
Oh
You
yeah.
you can heal through it, but still,
It's about the preemptive healing. You've got to anticipate the attack coming. But no, it takes a lot of luck too. All bravado aside, it takes a good bit of luck, and
mhm,
unless you've been playing Final Fantasy a long time, it's gonna be a hard fight at the beginning, especially if you haven't kind of power leveled or anything.
yeah. Which I
The
normally try to do. I normally, especially in that one, it's kind of easy to power level in that game if I remember correctly.
I
You-
was terrible about abusing the draw system. I would just draw 99 of everything for each of my people and junction it to the strongest thing I could junction to.
Well, and then I
And
would go after the T Rexes in the garden. So I mean,
well, yeah, no, I'd get those sweet, sweet ability points.
mhm,
That's what you did.
that's right. So Diablos, not a bad one. Number 6, another staple in the Final Fantasy franchise, Ramu.
Okay.
Ramu was one of my favorite summons. I don't know why. I think he reminded me of Master Roshi back in the day without the sunglasses.
The
Um,
cane looks very similar in 6 and 7.
mhm,
That big fat-headed staff. Yeah.
mhm. Um, I do enjoy again the new aesthetic of the remake with Ramu. Have you played Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade yet? I
I haven't gotten to that part of the content yet.
Gotcha. All I'm gonna say is that he's in there, and I do love the look, the updated look for Ramu. I mean, it's just he's a beast. He looks like a beast, and I love the whole mountain aspect where the mountain in the original where the mountain comes out of the ground and he appears up
Yes.
there
Big old
and
beard a
then
flowing.
yeah, and then he just Rita repulses it, man.
Chucks into the ground. Massive lightning bolts. Massive damage.
hmm but then also, I mean, he wasn't in 8, he was in 9, and I do love the role he played in 9 as kind of the mentor in the pinnacle. What is the pinnacle rocks for Garnet, trying to figure out her summons because this is really the first point in the game where you're starting to get summons. So Ramu is kind of like the old wise sage who is giving her, the trial or whatever in the pinnacle rocks. But I did love that aspect of Ramu, him kind of be the old wide sage. But yeah, like I think Ramu kind of gets more shafted than any of the other three basic, well, what I consider the staple ones.
Hmm. Your
The
big three element
well, your big
summon.
three element, I consider the fourth staple to be Bahamut, but we'll get to that probably later. But yeah, like I mean, he did because in 10 he was kind of replaced where you did have Ifrit and Shiva. Um, in 8, I don't he wasn't in there. Who was electric? Was it Quetzalcoatl? I think it was Quetzalcoatl was in
Quetzalcoatl did the lightning damage, yes.
so I think
Yep.
Ramu got more. He was in 6, right? Ramu was in 6?
Yes, in
Yeah.
6 he was another important plot element. He's the one who is tending to Terra when you find her in Zozo.
Oh, that's
And
right.
he gives you the quest to go to the Magitech research facility and, kind of explains her heritage and the nature of espers and magicite. So big exposition kind of character in 6 and 9.
Yep. Number 5, which is going to be Leviathan.
Nice.
So Leviathan's been one that I've never really cared for, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, I know he's kind of isn't he's kind of optional in 7. He wasn't in 10. He was in 8. And he was in 9, I believe. Obviously, he was in 6. I know that. And also a big major part of 15. I don't. He the story beat in 15. So I mean, he's a pretty major summon character. But
Mm-hmm.
again, another kind of elemental one that gets the shaft, kind of like Ramu. But I never really held a particular liking to him per se. But he was in the remake, I believe, already. So it's kind of like they kind of flash forwarded that one because that one didn't come until you at least got to Wutai. Um, so in 7. So I don't know. That one was pretty good. You got anything else to add about Leviathan?
Leviathan's an important plot beat 1 and 4 as well. He's the one that causes the shipwreck that causes you to
Hmm.
get separated from the majority of your party. Cecil ends up in Mysidia as a result of this. He swallows Rhodia, letting her get to the Esper world, where she gets to rank up, age up, and really find her own as a party member when she comes back. So kind of pivotal to that game.
Hmm.
So I feel that that and everything we said warrants that spot on our list.
Going to number 4, which is actually going to be a little bit surprising in my opinion, is Bahamut.
That low?
Yeah. I know, didn't even
Huh.
make top 3. That look, the data is in. The data is here.
I mean, we've got a wide range of, kind of points of view and, individuals in our Final Fantasy group, so it would make sense that we would get some, some surprises, and I like having a wide range of ideas coming in. I feel like it makes our discussions better for this for it.
Yep. Um, I mean, Bahamut's Bahamut, Dragon King. I mean,
Right?
he's got 3 different versions of his summon in 7. I mean,
Bahamut, Neo Bahamut, and Bahamut Zero,
yep.
correct?
Hmm. So, I mean, and he's littered all throughout all of Final Fantasy. You have to fight him in 8 to acquire him.
Same at
And
4.
10. I mean, he's pretty. I don't want to say he's story pivotal, but he's kind of like the top summon almost, like not stat wise, but like story wise. Like if you don't get any of the bonus summons, like Yojimbo, Anima, the Magus sisters, any of those,
He's going to
Bahamut's
be
kind of
your
the
top damage one.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's going to be your numero uno going into Xanarkin. So I mean, he's pretty important there. He's kind of like the end of the road there before you face Sin. Um, I mean, 9 actually he played a pivotal role in the story with the destruction of the Queen Brain's fleet and the attack on Alexandria and all that stuff.
hmm
So I mean, yeah, that was actually a pretty big story beat in that one. So I mean, he's definitely, and Bahamut's in, of course, all the extended games and everything like that. I mean, he's been around. He was even in Final Fantasy 1. He's the one who upgraded he wasn't a summon, but he upgraded your characters
hmm
to their advanced stages. Because I think you go to him to advance, like for or fighter goes to warrior. The mages go
Or
to
I,
wizards.
it, uh, warrior or knight, yeah, and the mages
Oh
become
yeah,
wizards.
like basically we all get our power levels increased by Guru the Bahamut.
And yeah, your sprite gets huge.
Yep.
But no, I mean, you know, Bahamut, this Dragon King from, fantasy lore, D&D, he's there, and he's the king of the summons in most of the Final Fantasy lore, to, except a few entries. So surprising he's not in the top 3, but four's a good spot.
Number 3 is my favorite summon of all time, Shiva. I don't know
All right.
why, but Shiva has always been one of my favorite summons of all time, from 7 to 8 to even 9, although I know she was a little forgettable in 9. She looks badass in 10.
Yeah.
I mean, even in like MMOs, like Final Fantasy 14, Shiva plays a pretty major role in some of the Heaven's Ward storylines. So I mean, Shiva's got a lot going on for her, as well as all her other prior appearances to 7. So yeah, so I mean, there's a lot to love there with Shiva, and she's just a sexy beast, like she just she's gonna kick your ass, and she's gonna look good doing it. So I don't know. What do you think of Shiva
Um, Shiva's heels are made for walking, man. I mean,
and that that
the
snap?
snap. Yeah. No, I mean, gotta have an ice summon.
Yeah.
And have they ever, varied from the ice summon being Shiva? If they've had an ice summon?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I
I
know I know 12 they did. They just butchered all the summons. We're not talking about 12. I love 12 as a game, but with its summons, I cannot forgive that game. But still,
we
um
can cut it some slack because it's evilous and
yeah.
not.
But they do exist on Evilist because they were all in well, a lot of these were in tactics. So
This is true.
they have to exist. Eh,
Very true.
but yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I don't think they've ever even technically with fire. They do Efreet a lot, but there's also Phoenix in a couple instances. And I mean, I know that Phoenix is not exactly fire, but it looks a lot like fire, and its lore is based in fire, so kind of the same themes.
No, I mean, a staple of the series and definitely deserving of a number 3 spot.
All right, number 2. Are you ready for this one?
I am.
Knights of the Round.
Okay. Uh,
I Knights of the Round is great. Don't get me wrong, but I really don't feel like it deserves it. And keep in mind,
I
I'm being unbiased here but this is all the data put together. And honestly, it did not get a single number 1 spot between all of us. But the problem was is that we all put it
tons of
pretty.
middling spots
It, yeah,
to
it was
yeah.
really there were a lot of high spots, like a lot of high spots enough to get it all the way up here. So I mean, granted, I like Knights of the Round. Don't get me wrong, I like but it barely shows up anywhere else in the franchise. And granted, if we were doing a Final Fantasy 7 top 10 summons, which I did, and I believe this was my number 1 possibly when I did mine on the channel years ago, check it out. But I really feel like this one, like as all summons, it but
Um,
the data's there.
I can see it being at 10 or 9 for all-time summons, but not 2. I mean, let's be real, it doesn't look good. They look like a Picasso abstract painting. They're a bunch of geometric shapes swinging other geometric shapes attached to lines. The point of it is to do huge damage, and you go make a sandwich so you can come back and watch it mime.
That's so true. So, yeah, I mean, this one I was kind of like when I did all the numbers and I put it all in order. I was kind of like I knew Knights of the Round would be on this list, but I was kind of like, really, number 2?
I think a lot of the allure is the mystique of how hard it is to get, and you have to go to all the trouble of breeding the gold chocobo, and it has this mystique and lore about it. And seven's one of the last times where the internet wasn't super prevalent, and a lot of this, the secrets were passed word of mouth. And you talked with your buddies at school, is like, oh, hey, did you hear about this summon? They're like, yeah, how do you get it? You've got to get to this secret island, and the only way to get there is with this chocobo, but I don't know how to do it. Oh, I heard so and so. Yeah, Mike knows how to breed a gold chocobo. Go ask him.
Also, strategy guide bait, because I don't think they give you any inkling on how to get there unless you beat Ruby Weapon and get a gold chocobo that way.
Oh yeah, no, there's no directions given in game that I could see. I only knew how to do it because of the guide. I'm not gonna lie about that.
Now, same
But
here. And the guide had told me how to do it. So,
yeah, but those other guys, they didn't have the guide, but they knew a dude who did, and who would sell them a gold chocobo for $10.
yeah, right.
Go do the work on their memory card on their save, and then they have it.
Yep.
Don't sue us, Squeenix.
Okay. Are we ready for the number one?
I wait with bated breath, sir.
So, this number one is the Holy Knight, Alexander.
I knew I had faith in us. I knew I had a reason to have faith in us. Such a great summon and perfect number one spot. Cheeto, he plays heavily in your favorite Final Fantasy. Why don't you? What are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, Alexander's great. I mean, even in Final Fantasy VII, where you have to wander the not wander, but you have to know how to get him in the what is it, the ice scape? I can't remember what the area is called at the moment, but you kind of have to get you have to kind of know how to get there to get him in the ice area up in the northern crater, not northern crater, but below the northern crater. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
At the base of the northern crater. He plays heavily in Final Fantasy IX, as you were alluring to. Basically, the castle of Alexandria
Right?
is Alexander.
It's
Um,
super cool.
yeah, and it is one of the best cinematics in that game. Is
Oh
that
yeah.
Alexander sequence? I mean, oh, chef's
I
kiss.
mean, he looks great no matter what entry he's in. The summon animation is always excellent. I mean, big chonky holy damage. I mean, what other source are you going to have for big chonky holy damage? And there are so many instances in a Final Fantasy game where that's very advantageous to your party.
Hmm.
And just, I mean, if it looks great, it's thematically awesome. It's a friggin' moving animated castle. I mean, come on, how cool is that?
Plays very there it's got its own like side sub quest thing in Final Fantasy 14 where you have to like go into Alexander and get to the depths of Alexander and then defeat, and I think you either purge it. I can't remember, it's been years since I've done it, but you either purge or you do, but there's like this just big Alexander kind of sitting out in the middle of this area, and you gotta it's like a dungeon crawl through Alexander. um
That
yeah,
sounds pretty boss.
I know. Um, I mean, I don't. I feel like this is another one though that kind of doesn't get enough love in other Final Fantasies only because of its bulky nature. Like it lends itself in 7, in 8, in 9, but when you get to 10, it's kind of like it doesn't lend itself too well to that format. So like 10, 12, 13,
any
like
any entry now where the summon comes and becomes an aid in combat, it's too clunky to
yeah,
work with that kind of system. And I mean, it's the nature of modern gaming. The days of them being some big damage animation are done, for better or worse. I mean, we loved it, but we also griped at the same time back in the day about how long it took to watch the summon.
yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I mean, modernizing the summon a little bit may not, like, maybe instead of making him a whole freaking castle, make him more of a, you know, like a knight, but like have
Hmm.
that same like stoic at like big bulky aspect, but maybe make him
Yeah.
less of an actual castle.
Yeah,
I would,
no, huge armor, like where
yeah,
the pauldrons look like turrets of a
yeah,
castle and such.
yeah.
Like the helmet's kind of like a spire.
I mean, almost like an Odin type, like style of character, but yet with that kind of Alexander armor. You know, I was thinking because I thought to myself a while ago, like, how do you get Alexander in these current, and I mean, nine did it best. Like nine made it an actual freaking castle, like, and that made perfect sense. Like, I know it sounds stupid, but it made perfect sense. Hopefully, I don't think it's been shown in 16 like trailers, but hopefully in 16 with how summon heavy they are, they will kind of lean into that a little bit.
See, it would
And
be nice if they were keeping that in their back pocket to like, make us happy when we do get to that point.
you know what always kind of made me a little, or always kind of struck me a little weird in Final Fantasy X, is how much Sin had a bit of an Alexander look to it with the spires on its back and kind of
Hmm.
the front, and the way that it looks like a whale. Don't get me wrong. I understand the whale
Right.
comparison, but if you kind of also look at it through another lens, it's kind of like it's like a mixture of a whale and Alexander. So I was always thinking that maybe like Sin was like the holy like the holy summon of that world, and then like the you Yevon whatever, you know, the final Aeon was more like, I don't know, like darkness, you know, summon or whatever. But it, as I said, that's not spoken in the game or in the lore, but it always struck me as looking like Sin always to me looked like a Alexander-esque whale. And I always thought that with the, as I said, with like the spiry city on the back of him and stuff, it just kind of, it honestly kind of lent itself to an Alexander for me. So headcanon, yes, but
No, I'd buy a seat in that headcanon for sure.
so all right. Well, that was our top 10 definitive Final Fantasy summon list. Uh Everybody, sound off in the comments below. Let us know what your list is. Let us know what you thought about our list. As I said, these are not our personal list. This is the data compiled from all of the Final Fantasy contributors here on our channel, brought to you by the lovely Mage Rage and Cousin Cheeto. Do you have anything else to add there, Mage?
Uh, I can't think of anything else to add. I think we've done a pretty good job of breaking down what we like or dislike about any of these summons on the list. Yeah, just thanks for watching and definitely hit us in the comments, give us a like and subscribe. You've been watching NerdTube, the best channel you've maybe kind of sorta heard of.
And that is, ladies and gentlemen, the host of the year from NerdTube, signing out for you. Bye
Oh.
bye.